Hotline FN, the live call-in show for your hot takes, bold predictions, and unpopular opinions surrounding the competitive Fortnite scene. This is episode 10. My name is Tim. So that's fun. We've got our usual co-host tonight, and we also have a special guest this week. We're not two-manning it again, which is really exciting. We're coming up hot. We're like a week out, basically, from the World Cup. We're days away from the first ever console-specific Xbox Cup. And we've got another Trios Cup, this time with full farming. We got a lot to talk about coming into this episode, guys. So first off, let's bring in, you guys know him, the totally bodacious Bala TW, and our special guest, the fabulous fragger, the totally tight, the mostly mint Khuna. What's up, guys? What's up? Welcome to the show.
Yo, what's up?
What is up, boys?
So, Bala, it's been a week. I know you've been busy. I know you've been busy probably prepping for the World Cup as well, but why don't you walk us through real quick what you've been up to since we last saw you here?
Well, I just scarfed down a bunch of wings, so my mouth is on fire right now, which is pretty exciting. And I've just been, besides working, I've been mad jealous of everybody in New York already. There's like 15 freaking pros out there boot camping and stuff, and they're sending all pictures. And I'm just jealous. I want to be there. Can't wait. It's next week. Crazy.
Classic. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, it's almost like, obviously everyone's like, nerves on point and everyone's just like grinding and stuff. But part of you just wants to believe it's just like a big, really fun sleepover out in New York right now.
It's hilarious because like all the EU pros are all in the NA Discord and the OC pros and stuff like that. Everybody's in the Pratt Court right now, and it's just like a mess. Everybody's just trash talking. We got Mitro in there just spamming. It's a mess. Classic. But yeah, that's it, man. I'm just excited. A lot of prep, a lot of work. Yeah, we're doing some trials in Pratt Court of some fun stuff that I think some people have seen, which is like scoring like automated stuff, which is exciting. I've been talking about like improvements to practice for a while, so we're finally starting to do some stuff. That's what's going on with me.
Hello. Yeah. Dope. Perfect. Khuna, we've never had you on, so first, like, thanks for being on the show, man. We mad appreciate it, but also, why don't you walk us through what you've been up to, what you've got going on?
I'm not really doing much. Just your old regular, fucking streaming and playing the game.
Hell yeah! I mean, that's all anybody can ask, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So
you playing with trios this weekend before we get started? Are you playing with trios? Because this is the weekend, man.
Yeah. Imagine and Jarvis.
Oh okay. Yeah.
Nice.
Come on, you don't follow Khuna on Twitter, Bala?
Well, I knew the play last week, but it was with Issa, and he's in New York now, so it's all slightly different.
Yeah, Issa's gone.
This is the week, man, because everybody's gone. Everybody's not like playing and stuff like that in the EU. It's all fucked up over there.
I imagine. All right, so before we hop into topics here, let's talk a bit about, well, not us, me. I'm going to talk about the format. All right, so this is a live show. That means we want to talk to you about the things you want to talk about. We're not here for questions. We're not here for an interview. I want your hot takes. I want your bold predictions. We want to tell you why you're wrong or agree with you. We want your unpopular opinions so that we can dissect them and pick them apart. That's the whole point of Hotline FN. So type !Hotline FN into the chat. You'll get a link to the Discord where you can submit your topics. We'll look over them while we're live and we decide which ones we want to pull on. It's not in any particular order, just whatever we feel like when we feel like it. So get those submissions in ASAP. All right, so I feel like we start every other episode of Hotline FN talking about either trios or shotguns. And of course, we've got a bunch of both to talk about, right? So in this last patch, 9.4, full patch, honestly, in my opinion, a pretty like solid patch, right? We got a lot of bug fixes. We got changes that weren't particularly disruptive. And that's the majority of it, right? Like there are a lot of like awesome creative changes and stuff. I know Donnie's like super excited about everything, right? But for, the rest of us, it's really not that big of a deal aside from severe combat nerfs and the addition of the epic and rare. That's the purple and gold tactical shotgun. So I want to focus first though on the combat nerf. Bala, I know you've been grinding a bunch. Do you have any thoughts so far on how that has affected the combat, and especially how it relates to the pre-existing shotgun pool?
No, I haven't felt the nerf that much, honestly. It's still super solid. Like sometimes I feel like I am not killing people as fast as I should be, or as I used to, but at the same time, like it doesn't really matter with the combat. The combat is such a versatile, strong weapon that, you know, the difference in 4 shots versus 5 shots, it's so fast, and you get to use it in such interesting ways that are quick and catching people off by surprise. And it's still a very long range shotgun. So I don't feel them that much. I am starting to like the pump slightly better for my own purposes, but that's also just because all I do is W key in arena. So, I mean, all I do is try to get the 200 taps. I don't feel the combat nerfs at all. I don't know if Khuna does.
I don't know. I feel like the combat's not as useful anymore. Like, I've been playing with the pump ever since the patch, and I'm starting to like it more and more. It feels more useful than it used to be.
Yeah, that's kind of the same thing that I'm getting. And the tac, like, doesn't really fit. To me, it's always the pump versus the combat.
The tac's always irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's get into that.
But I was...
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I was going to say, like, well, I'm going to move away from the combat. So if you've got more to talk about on the combat here, then let's focus on that. Because I wanted to mention with the combat, right, that a lot of people are saying they don't feel the nerf that heavily. But from what I've been watching, like, it's just less. It used to be, like, combat is undeniably, like, the best anti-air shotgun, right? Now that it's been nerfed by half, right? Like, it's been nerfed by 50%, essentially, the damage fall off at those longest ranges, right? From 20 tile for the last stage of fall off, all the way down to like 10 or 11 tiles, right? And at the mid range, it's only nerfed by like roughly 30%, something like that, which isn't like, that's still big, but you might not feel that as much or as often, right? Especially when it's only 10 damage. But when you're used to hitting people for 40, 35 to 40, and now you're hitting them for 15 or 20 in the air, that really negates like how worthwhile is this, right? So I don't know, that's kind of what I've been feeling, that like, whereas before the combat was like the de facto, if you want to hold height and shoot people out of the sky, this is the gun, period. And now it's more, I feel like I'm having to lean more on my AR and SMG shots for those sort of like not super far off people gliding around me. I don't know. That's kind of been my experience with it.
Yeah, like, so when I play,
I feel like the combat on high ground is just legit. Just, it doesn't matter how much damage you're doing. It's just because it has so much bullets and you do just constant aim that I don't feel it. What were you saying, Khuna?
I play zone wars a lot, and always when I have height, I feel like the combat, when you have height, you might as well shoot with the SMG. It doesn't do that much damage anymore. Like, it's the same damage, and it shoots faster. I feel like the SMG just beams harder.
Yeah. I mean, silenced SMG has always been a really strong weapon, and we haven't seen a lot of it since it came back because of how strong combat plus 1 AR was. Does the nerfs to combat make more room for running a shotgun and an SMG again?
Yeah, like, I'd rather just run AR, pump, and SMG, and like, when someone tries to take high, I can just keep tapping and building with my pump instead of constantly just using my combat. Because I feel like the damage with the pump is just better for me.
And I feel like that's something that Trios lends to specifically well, because your like inventory economy isn't as important. You've got 3 inventories to split utility and heals up between. So if 1 or 2 people feel like they want to or need to take 3 guns, you know, they have that option to them. Sorry guys, I keep shaking my camera. I keep pumping stuff.
You're one of me now.
One of you. All right, so combat nerfs. All right, so maybe some changes. If you really just start enjoying using the combat, it's not so significant that it's gonna like really push you off using it. It's not like suddenly bad. I feel like that's the general vibe. So what about the epic and rare tac? I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoy them, right? They have a slightly smaller bloom than the blue tac, right? They do a little more damage. You've got max of like over 190 headshot damage on each of them. You've got
195.
Are both of them over 195, or is just the gold 195?
I think it's just the gold one.
Okay, I think the purple it's like 185 or it's 190, somewhere around there.
It's up there.
It's up there. It's up there, right? Like, and the range on it, the fall off range, like it's hurt by its larger balloon than the pump, but like the actual effective range of it, that aside, is about equal to the pump, right? Like it's pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Like you said, the tack is irrelevant. I love the purple and gold tack. Like I like them so much. I feel like it's the perfect mixture of like basically being able to one tap people. Like you can break that 150 barrier, right? That the combat can't in a single shot. And it's got that like really fast fire rate. You can make some sweet edit plays with it. It's got a way faster pullout than the combat. That's how I'm feeling on it. Khuna, have you got much a chance to play with it?
Probably not. Like I don't see the difference with if you pick up a gold tack or if you pick up a blue pump. Like no, like even though it has a faster fire rate, you're not gonna sit there and just keep 50-50ing the guy.
Yeah.
So like if you might as well just hit him like harder and just build again.
Yep.
Like you still have that chance at that 200, whereas he doesn't. He can hit you 195, but like that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Which
and as you said, you have a smaller bloom on the pump, so you do more damage from medium range.
Yeah, true. How would you compare it to the combat though? If you were looking at a blue combat and a gold tack, are you still taking the combat every time?
It depends on what else is in my loadout. If I have only an AR, and then like I can pick between combat or the attack, and then I have like movement and shit, then I'll probably take the combat because the combat doesn't need an SMG, but the
you
attack
think
definitely needs an SMG.
Interesting. You don't think it shoots fast enough to make up for that?
No, the fire rate's really slow. Okay. It's way slower than the like. If someone barrel stuffs you with a drum, you're just dead with that. If you don't hit like a 195.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's me, sir. Ballo, what have you been feeling with it? You seem to be agreeing over there.
Yeah, I thought the tack had a fast fire rate until I picked up the purple and gold, which is funny because you would think that they're exactly the same, right? Or is there a difference in fire rate? Whatever. If it is, it's minor. Yeah. It is. I'm pretty sure it's the same. So it's funny that I didn't realize how slow it was until the purple and gold came out. I had a really weird experience on the first day with the purple and gold tacks because to me, I was like, wait, what the hell? These things are so slow. They're junk. They're absolutely doo-doo. There's so I honestly kind of felt because of the way that the weapon was designed, the sound, the pull-out animations, the look of the item, I honestly felt like it was totally placebo, but I was like, I'd rather take a blue tack than a gold tack.
Wow,
because of how the weapon was designed. It feels so strong, so powerful, and it is. Today I've had a completely different experience. I started to realize, they're exactly the same. Anything that I'm thinking is placebo, but it's still slow. It's still really slow. I still have to play it like I'm using a pump.
Exactly.
Like
then it's just not as good.
That's it. And then it's just so I've had 50-50 with it, but that's kind of the history of the tack in the first place, right? It feels inconsistent. This feels a little bit more consistent, but I still think I'd rather have a pump because of how it plays. There's never a time that I'm using the tack, just like Khuna says, where I'm taking 2 shots in one go. So the fire rate is too slow to matter. That's why I say it's still irrelevant, but I am no longer mad if I'm playing attack if it's purple or gold.
Sure. Yeah. It definitely feels closer in like effect to its like decent brethren now. That it's not just like I have attack, I lose, right? Like even the blue these days, after the headshot buff, right? Like feels like I can perform with this, right? Like I can make it happen. Something interesting then is, so we have a whole bunch of shotguns in the game now, right? And so if the tack isn't good enough to be a 50-50 barrel stuffing weapon, and it's not good enough to be I want to build and make edit plays and build fight, and just generally be smart and clever with my shots and then run off like a pump is, right? And I guess what I'm getting at is, does it fill any role better than any other shotgun does, right? It doesn't fill the mid-range job better. We already said it doesn't fill the 50-50 box fight job better. So basically your options, if I want a box fight in 50-50, I take a blue drum or I take anything basically over that tack. Like, do you take a blue drum over the tack?
It fulfills a role. It fulfills a role, and let me tell you what it does. It fills the loophole with shotguns that are at least something that I want to carry, which is a really good thing. To have
that is good.
Shotguns that I'm happy about, I love it. but I don't think it fulfills any role over anything else. It's still a shotgun slot, so that's it.
Okay. That leads me kind of into the next interesting thing here before we get into questions. But with the addition of, we have tack and drum at gray right now, and part of me was almost thinking, hear me out, guys. Wild suggestion. What if drum is the only floor loot shotgun? Now, drum sucks. No one wants to use the drum more than they absolutely have to. But if you are confident that your opponent can't, 0-100 you with their green pump or their blue tack or whatever, that makes every other weapon you get off the drop way more valuable and viable, right? Suddenly getting a gray pistol off the drop isn't as bad if your opponent, best case scenario, has a drum gun, right? Or a drum shotgun.
Yes, you have to be clear there. I don't know, Khuna. What are you thinking about that crazy suggestion?
I really don't like the drum shotgun. I really don't like it.
No one does. It's bad. It's just bad. It's not. That's not the point. Right?
We've said it before, man. We don't like getting weapons that we don't like to use. So just
imagine I land
shotgun. Oof.
Imagine I go top house salty, the blue one. I go top floor. The other guy goes bottom floor, and he comes up to me with a drum shotgun, and I have an SMG. Like, I'm just dead.
Yeah. I hear that. Okay, so shotguns mostly covered, right? Like that. If you want to talk more about the shotguns, you have a particular take that you disagree with ours, make sure you bring it in as a submission, right? Exclamation point Hotline FN. Let's get our first. I got our first caller in here. How's it going? Where are you from? And what's your name?
I'm doing great. My name's Sharknome. I'm from NA East.
Hey, what's up? What did you want to talk about?
So my topic was about exercise and its effect on performance, basically like mindset, confidence, aim, mental fortitude, stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. This is great. Do you have an opinion on it you wanted to share?
Yeah. So whenever I get off work, I usually go run. Then I hop on Kovaaks, and I noticed whenever I run instead of skipping running, I actually perform a lot better. Whenever I with my aim, and then 1v1 and stuff like that, I just perform overall better with my mechanics and aim.
Cool. Yeah. I think Bala might be. I don't know. Khuna, do you work out?
Yeah, I just started again a month ago.
Nice. Not me. So what do you guys think about this? I mean, I have some thoughts, right? But
yeah, I put a tweet out recently about literally basically feeling the thing that Sharknome is talking about. I have been doing a lot of shoulder mobility work where I'm loosening up my shoulders, and when I come home from working out after doing some shoulder work, I get better Kovaaks scores, and my mechanics are better. Just my building feels smoother, my aim feels better. I literally, every time I come home from a workout, I actually increase my Kovaaks score by 100 points. And if it's a really, really good day, I increase it by 500 points. That was 2 days ago. I increased my close long straight by 500. I was hard stuck for a long time.
Was that the working out, or was that the new mouse?
It's a little bit of both. A little bit of both. It has to be, right? I have been increasing significantly because literally the moment after I work out and I come back, I have a tired ass arm and everything. I just am way better. And so that is a proven thing, right? That after working out, I don't know what the hell the science is or whatever, but after working out, you definitely have an emotional and hormonal response where you will be more motivated. I don't know what it does, but it does stuff that makes you better. So huge, in my opinion, to work out. And I think all esports have figured it out that is true. They've all hired physical trainers on all sorts of places, and their coaches.
Every serious team. Yeah.
Actual training. Yeah. So yes, very important. Wrist health, very important. Exercise is one of the most important things.
Yeah. I remember back in the day when Team Solo Mid, when TSM was building their first house, they'd been in it for a while back in the Bay Life days. I think it was the Odd One had a serious health scare where he was basically drinking Coke and eating Pop-Tarts, and that was it for a year and a half. And he had got some terrible degenerative skin disease where his skin was literally peeling off. And that's when TSM brought in health people and physical trainers and all this stuff, and it's been like a permanent part of not just their team but like that whole scene and all sorts of scenes now, kind of since then, right? So it's important both in the case of like take care of yourself generally, but also there's decided benefits to like not just taking care of yourself but physically pushing yourself. Khuna, how do you feel that exercise and working out affects, or just physical activity in general affects your play?
It's probably good. Like, I don't know. I feel like obviously it varies like from person to person, but I feel like for the general like human being, I feel like it's better. Probably, sure. Yeah.
All right.
About that Kovaaks, I feel like Kovaaks is really useless. That's me.
Just generally speaking. Why is it useless? Do you disagree that it helps improve people's aim?
No, I just feel like like I don't know why you wouldn't just practice in game and like just do free builds and edit courses instead of like going for tracking when there's so much bloom involved in the game. Like unless you're playing hunting rifle, or what it is, not hunting rifle. I mean, what's it called? The fucking infantry. The infantry rifle. I just don't feel like it's worth. Like obviously having good aim is so good. Like I do like. I just feel like creative is just better for like improving aim and shit.
It's digressing a little bit, but I feel like we all agree that exercise is good and it helps you in game, and it's probably not talked up enough about. I completely disagree, Khuna, because like, and again, I actually talked about this literally in my Q&A thing yesterday. Hey, Ball, I have a question. I was like, somebody asked, why don't you play Fortnite to improve your aim? Practice scenarios in there, but like, it's just the game doesn't support real aim training. It just doesn't, not at all. Like the mechanics in the game literally don't support real aim training because of bloom, because of all that inconsistency. So we all know that aim is still very important, right? You don't disagree with that. Aim is still very important.
It's probably one of the most
Fortnite, you don't think so?
No, it's probably the most important thing you can have.
Okay, yeah. So practicing in game where there's bloom and stuff like that doesn't really make sense to me, right?
Yeah, because if you're working against bloom, you're not actively increasing your aim. And even if bloom can invalidate your aim at times, it doesn't when you're in the same box with someone with a shotgun or an SMG, right? Like, definitely cases where it doesn't. I mean, we're not pro players, Ballas. Maybe Kuna's figured something out, but
yeah. But there's also
something that works for him
who do, you know, Kovacs. So again, it's totally preference, but I think it's totally preference. I don't think it's reasonable to say what Kuna's saying and say Kovacs is useless. It might be useless for you, Khuna, but it's definitely not like completely useless for everybody. And if people are like you, then and they're your type of player and they're your type of attitude, maybe it's also useless for them. So it makes sense. I just don't necessarily think that the bloom makes it so that practicing aim in another scenario that doesn't have bloom makes.
No, I meant that in like tracking. Obviously, I know there's like shotgun shit on Kovaaks, but that you might as well do on Fortnite.
If there is good scenarios, again, it's about the tools and stuff like that. But
that's when box fighting, like practicing box fighting in creative, is so good for shotgun aim improvement.
Yeah, or like just playing Turtle Wars, that kind of stuff. Definitely.
Yeah.
There's definitely value there for sure.
I would always argue that in-game tools are always better than third-party tools for practicing aim, but the tools have to be there and the game has to support it. That's the thing. Turtle Fights and Turtle Wars are probably the best aim trainer in Fortnite right now. Besides, screw all those Kovacs replicators; those are useless in my opinion.
Those are really bad.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, Sharknome, for the topic about exercise and stuff. We moved right from that into Kovacs. We've got a couple more callers, but let's take a few chat submissions first, or take one here. We got It's Kozar. He brings up almost more something I want to refute than discuss, but I want to hear you guys' points on it. He says, do you think a $1 million... He says, do you think a $1 million prize pool for console players is appropriate, considering that console isn't generally competitive, nor does it have a competitive scene? And what I wanted to say regarding this is, like, first off, like, a lot of the prize pools, if you want to judge like whether or not a prize pool is like what appropriate. Like it probably wasn't appropriate if you're going to add zombies and gliders in, day of or whatever, right? So I think that's a non-starter, whether or not like, they want to put this much money into it, they want to put that much money into it, like whatever, right? But the non-competitiveness of console, right? That's something interesting, and maybe not the exactly correct panel of people to be talking about it, but if there are people on console playing competitively, then there is a competitive scene on consoles, right? Like we're gonna see players pop up on this Xbox tournament. We're probably gonna see a bunch of unknown names do, relatively well because they are just Xbox grinders, and that's where they like to play. That's where they like to be. And I don't think there needs to be any kind of like judgment of like, oh, this isn't a real tournament. Whatever. It's not a platform you don't play on. Like you don't have to watch it. It might not be relevant to you, but it's hugely relevant for these people. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I feel like it's gonna be so good because there's some people that are probably nasty on Xbox that just don't have enough money for a computer, and if they do well in that, maybe they can, get into the PC scene and shit. So I think that's gonna be nice.
Yeah.
Two things. There's no established competitive scene because there have been no tournaments for it, and there has been no support for an established competitive scene. So here's the first steps, right? Whether I completely disagree with you, Tim, in terms of the money, right? I agree with it's appropriate because it's Epic. We all know that Epic likes to throw money at tournaments, and that's totally fine. I'm going to accept that. But whether something is competitive or not, it kind of feels, I don't know. We've never had a company like Epic that puts a lot of money into something and then like treats it like it's not a competitive event. Like, oh, this is just a test, or oh, this is just for fun. Oh, this is just for whatever. Anybody can win. Like your grandma can pick up an Xbox controller and win. Like that's kind of the philosophy, right? Your dog can go outside and play and win the tournament. That kind of thing. Like I'm going a little too far here, but that's the philosophy. Like anybody can win, and it's just for fun. Like have a good time, right? Yeah. But you put that much money into something, and people are going to want to play competitively. So it does matter, and I think it's a good question. Is the scene, is the competitive community in console, and is the game, I think more importantly, ready to support the competitive integrity of a tournament, right? Because we've had points in Fortnite's history where it didn't even feel like that for PC, right? Sure. So is the money appropriate? I don't know. I think we'll have to see. This is the first of its kind for console. I think the game is in a pretty good state. I don't know how competitive console plays, how competitive Xbox plays at all. I don't know what the scrim scene is. I don't know anything like that. Maybe it's just going to be completely random because nobody can play an endgame where everybody tries to, play competitive Fortnite. Wins.
Yeah. But even if that's the case, right, it becomes a bot farm, right? That's still competitive in its own right. Just it's different, right? Like you said before last week, it's a different game. And in this case, where it's console specific, console only, one platform, it is a different game. Like the meta is totally different because of what the hardware can support, what the controllers can do. Like it's just going to be a different game. And just because it doesn't line up with competitive Fortnite as we know it, doesn't make it competitive within its scene, right? Yeah. So I'm excited. Sure. I'm excited. I'm probably not going to watch it live, like straight up. I'll be playing trios, but I'm excited to like watch some clips and kind of just see like how it went and how it goes and talk to some friends about it. More than merrier.
I think it'll generate some hype. I hope there's a good broadcast or something that people can watch, because if I was not crazy busy this weekend, I would definitely want to pick that up, because I think there is a huge community that's waiting for it, right? Waiting for some competitive console tournament.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, let's bring in our next caller here. Hey, how's it going? Where are you from, man? What's your name?
Well, I'm from NA East, and my name's Alibi.
What's up, Alibi? What did you want to talk about?
So with the recent addition of trios and future squad events like solid gold squads that Epic Games is bringing, do mechanics really matter when there's more people present, or does game sense and comms matter?
What's your take?
Well, my take is like, well, if you have more people, like you can get other people to build for you, and then you can shoot, or like someone else can edit and tunnel for you while like you do something else. Like it's not like mainly you tunnel and shoot at the same time. So I think it's more mechanically based, but like
Okay.
people.
Yeah. Kuna, what do you think? Do you think that having more players makes the mechanical requirement lower, or does it just bump the ceiling higher?
I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to get some controller players involved. To be honest with you, like having 1 or 2 controller players on a squad or a trio seems to be pretty nice.
Just have them laser while you build. I love it.
I'll crank. You just hold your controller and shoot for me.
Is that because you think that it doesn't take as much mechanics, right? Because you can handle all the building and stuff like that, and they can just handle all the staying out.
Like obviously, having a controller player that's decent mechanically is just as good as having a cracked PC player that's insane mechanically. Like obviously, like it's kind of controversial, like talking about the topic, but controller players have less bloom. It's just there, like. So I feel like those late game picks are just so important to get.
Yeah. So you're basically agreeing here, right? You're saying that mechanics aren't as important. It gives you more room, in your case, to move around, play around with controller players and stuff to flesh out a team. What do you think, Mbala?
I think right now, yes. I think I completely agree with that right now. But we are still so early into competitive Fortnite. We are still so early. If you ask this question about Counter-Strike in 2002, when it was just coming out, and I'm going to date myself, K-Sharp was just starting to discover the mechanics with the op and start to have nasty op flicks. And we could say this pretty much about any game's learning curve, right? As people learn the game, mechanics become more and more and more important. And before that, tactics and strategy were the most important, right? So I think right now we're in a stage where trios and squads, that is 100% true. It will always, not always, sorry. It will be like that for a while until Booga and, Khuna and like these mechanically cracked freaking players, the people who will outbuild you and outplay you with edits and outdo all these things until you guys all figure out the exact way to play tactically, then all of a sudden mechanics is going to boom, right?
Yeah.
And everybody knows the right way to play, and it all matters just how you execute. And sure, I think it'll be balanced at that point, which is where Counter-Strike sort of is, right? You will never, if you face somebody in Counter-Strike, you die. Right, it's one of you guys are dying if you face. That's just a fact. Like the players are so good. At the lowest level, no, but at the top level, yes. And so then, in order to survive in that, in order to actually kill the person if they face you, you have to have good mechanics. But it's a balance, because if you don't have good tactics, good strategies, you are not going to put yourselves in the positions to outshine with mechanics. So I think right now, tactics strategy way outweighs mechanics, way outweighs it. But in the future, no.
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to thank before we get into this, I want to thank Alibi for popping in and bringing this topic up. Thanks, man.
Thank you, man.
Have a great evening.
Brother.
No problem.
Cool. So you kind of touched on this, Bala, and just to expand a bit, right? We have neither the incentive nor the time to really see, the cap on trios, right? We barely have a time to see like halfway up that skill elevator, right? Like there's not there's a World Cup coming, right? So the players you'd expect to be like really pushing the boundaries, like they're not, right? And then, we've had like 2 weeks, right? Of like a week and a half of actual practice, right? So I think that if we come out of World Cup and it's like, hey, the next like big tournament is going to be trios or squads or whatever, then we'll start to see the mechanics matter more as strategies evolve that require really strong mechanics, right? Right now, the strategies kind of evolved just around staying together, making plays together, how to do that effectively. Maybe some people are working out set plays. But then going forward, we're going to be seeing things like group tunneling at extreme levels and just like all kinds of nut stuff, I imagine, that's both going to take mechanical skill and the wherewithal strategically to pull it off. So I think we're kind of just barely scraping the bottom of the barrel, or the top of the barrel at this point. I don't know. What do you think about that, Khuna? Do you see trios like getting much more competitive if it continues to be a focus, or do you think we kind of have seen it?
Like I feel like we're kind of there already. Not gonna lie to you. Like I don't feel like unless they add something game breaking, I don't feel like it's gonna change that much. Like I feel like mechanically, like most of us like that are incredibly mechanically skilled have like figured out like what building is already. You know?
Yeah.
So I feel like mechanically, like mechanical wise, I don't feel like it's gonna change too much. Maybe a little bit, with, like new strats and shit. But other than that, I think it's gonna look not the same, but it's gonna look like similar to what it is now.
Okay. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. I think we figured out what competitive Fortnite looks like. 100%.
Yeah,
definitely.
In trios and squads, I think we know what it looks like. You try to take high ground, you get a bunch of kills that way, and you go from there. That's a really simplistic way, and that's good that it's simplistic, but that is what it is right now. I think we will for sure have differences in play styles and differences in how people do things and strategies like you're talking about, Tim, but at the end of the day, it's going to look the same. And I feel like trios is already there. I think people had a good experience with trios this past weekend.
Yeah,
besides
a lot of fun.
all the scuff stuff, I think everybody had a really, really good time for the most part. Sure, there's a few people who are like, this freaking sucks, but mostly they were complaining about the tournament being scuffed, right? Yeah. The mats, the format, the semifinals versus the finals, the W game, the 10 games only, that sort of stuff, I think.
That's my experience as well. Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm super looking forward to this weekend. Khuna, obviously you've got a crack team together. Are you guys approaching, like, is practice approached in a different manner than just like grinding with your duo, right? Obviously you've got more people to try to coordinate with. But does that like change how that plays out for you guys, or is it mostly the same? Just get on, grind some creative together, and then just start playing
I feel
games?
like you actually like you have to figure out where to drop. I feel like drop spots in trios are huge. Like I feel like me, Issa, and Jarvis, like the reason we played top 60, I think, in the trios finals. Like the reason we didn't place like top 30, we were in shambles every single game. Like we landed Sunny, and there was just not enough loot. Like there's
in Sunny,
in Sunny, and just not enough loot. Like we'd come out with one drum shotgun, one great tack, and that's that.
Yikes. Okay, yeah. So that's what I've experienced as well, right? There's a lot. You can pull off some interesting things, but the quality of that loot when doing those interesting things, like really floaty drops or like wide splits through otherwise not good looting areas, right? Like fake junk outside of paradise, places like that. They can all be more viable than they are in duos, but they still only give you so much loot, right?
Yeah, and like the thing we did after, like we played the whole day of semis, only Sunny, and like we said, we're gonna try this one game tomorrow. If it shambles, we're just gonna literally just YOLO and drop on every single gold hot spot.
Here we go.
And we did that, and it actually like kind of worked. Like it worked out pretty well. Like I can't lie, but
I imagine in duos the hotspots are almost not important. Like it's nice, but they're not important.
But it's because we barely got any shotguns off of Sunny, so like we were just like, fuck this, we just want a shotgun. Like,
yeah. So
then,
then,
into the hotspot, yeah. Especially since I have 2 controller players, I want that scar, you know.
Yeah. And Bala, you might have something to say to this, right? But do you think that those hot drops are going to become more important, the hot zones or whatever, just by dint of you're basically guaranteed to have good weapons?
Nah, I think preparing for a spot is way more crucial, and being really, really, really good at a spot is way more important than guaranteed weapons that aren't necessary, that are kind of a risk, right? Because you can't, if you're going to a hotspot, like even though you're guaranteed weapons, you aren't guaranteed to do something that you've practiced, because it literally it forces you to do different things, right? Yeah. Just by virtue of having to go chase down the drones and killing them until it gives you the weapon that you want. So I don't think so. I think you'll just be fortunate if your hotspot is that, or if your drop is that. I think what you, Khuna, experienced, and again, you're the pro, not me, is that, yeah, I don't think that a single spot is good and viable in trios. Like,
Definitely is.
POI.
The thing is, we were gonna go tilted, but going tilted with those mats just doesn't work.
Yep.
They just didn't work. Like our main thing was tilted, and then 20 minutes before the tournament, they announced, "Oh, guess what? You guys don't get mats anymore. Like you should get robbed of mats." So we were like, "Yeah, we gotta go somewhere where you actually can get mats, because you're not gonna get mats at tilted. Tilted for mats is dog shit."
And that's doubles up on the problem that you mentioned, right? Of like some of these spots, like even Sunny, which should be a decent spot, suddenly wasn't. And how much of that is contributable to the slower farming speeds, right? You have to leave your POIs, later than you'd otherwise like to, or you have to heavily prioritize farming while you're moving instead of, being at 500 almost instantly off of your POI and zipping around for loot exclusively. You feel like that? Do you feel like drops like Sunny are going to be suddenly overnight more viable this weekend?
Definitely going to be better. Definitely. But then again, tilted is also going to be better because now there's actually mats at tilted.
Yeah. So are you going tilted this week?
Probably, yeah. Either tilted or we tried Paradise, but there was 5 teams there, so we never went there again.
You know where to get your 50 pots, boys.
Then. Paradise is shit.
I don't even think Khuna realized what just happened.
That's all right.
I really don't.
That's all right. That's all right. It's all good. It's all in good fun. All right, so we've got a chat submission here. This comes from Crying Furball 11.
Nice name.
I like that.
Do you think that competitive Fortnite will reach a level similar to games like Counter-Strike that have LANs almost every month? Ball, you can probably speak to this well, both of you, but we basically already have monthly LANs, not like super high top tier LANs, but there are in-person events happening all over the place all the time. This is totally true. Oh, they're like, $1,000 pools, squad frag outs. They exist.
What? Where are you finding your LANs? Like
the Microsoft stores host stuff like all the time. They just don't have the big prize pools or the big like marketing with Fortnite and stuff, right? Like they exist though. Okay. They've been around.
Sure, there's LANs. There's definitely not the scale of Counter-Strike LANs.
No.
Like local. So what I'm saying, like local scene for Counter-Strike is way bigger. And then the big tournaments as well. He's talking about big tournaments literally every month or every 2 weeks, right? There's a Blast Pro Series or an ESL every single 2 weeks in Counter-Strike, or a DreamHack or something like that. So yeah, no, I don't think we're there at all.
We're not there yet.
To be honest, I don't think we're gonna get there ever.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. What do you think's holding it back?
Epic. To be honest with you.
You think so?
It's because I just don't feel like they're into competitive that much. Like the fan base, the fan base of Fortnite just isn't that competitive. So like, I don't think they care that much. Like at LAN, like online qualifiers, like they can host that like every week, but it's not the same as a LAN.
They almost have all of the tools they need though to really open it up, right? Like you've got customs, you got 100 people, obviously 100 people. That's probably the bigger limiting factor, right? Like a smaller company that could theoretically put up 50K, obviously there's caps, right? But that could put up 50K for a LAN event. They can't also support 100 players, right? And the admin staff needed for that, not to mention just like the space needs. Like a LAN for Fortnite is way more expensive.
The logistics.
Yeah, the cost of a Fortnite LAN is far above and beyond basically any other game out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a limiting factor, and I don't know if that's like surmountable. I don't know, Bala. How would you see more LANs playing out? Would it have to be Epic ran and maintained, or do you think there's room for someone like ESL to do monthlies?
Yeah, I think there's room. I think there's definitely room. I agree with Khuna in certain aspects, like the fan base. The community for Fortnite does not give a crap about competitive. We have 120,000, 160,000 people subscribed to the competitive subreddit. The real subreddit, the Fortnite BR subreddit, literally doesn't post anything competitive relevant at all unless it includes Ninja, right? So I don't think right now that Fortnite, the community, cares about competitive in the way that it needs to do what we want to do, right? ESL had 250,000 viewers, right? Which was really good for Fortnite. I mean, for a competitive Fortnite event. And just in general, that's pretty good. That's a good event. It's just that that's not going to repeat itself over and over and over as it stands right now. It's just that it's because they're so rare and so unique. I think that we can do it. I think the tools are there. I think third parties can run them with those tools. Epic does need to release them. And then we can get there. But I think damage has been done to the image of what competitive Fortnite is. I think if we started with the summer skirmishes and then moved into PAX West and then moved into TwitchCon and then moved into, PAX East and continued in that fashion, it might have slowly built up, but we ramped the freak up. We're at $30 million over next weekend. And there's still a huge issue about getting people interested and involved. Don't get me wrong. Fortnite has huge involvement competitively. Like, there is some ridiculous numbers just by looking at the leaderboards of how many people played in this event in World Cup qualifiers. But that doesn't transfer over, right, to the same thing that Counter-Strike or that an esport needs to really grow into what it is. I think it'll be carried for a while by money and by still hype about Fortnite because it still is the hot thing, right? There still is no game that's beating it. So that's what it's going to be carried by for a while, but it needs to transition into a CSGO type, running tournaments every month, really getting to know your pro players, having the pro players be the figureheads in your community, not the non-pro players, not Laserbeam, right?
Yeah. Since last week when we were talking a bit about grassroots efforts to build things like leagues and regular competition and that kind of thing, I kind of got thinking about how, before my analogies were around Magic the Gathering, and you've got sort of your local game store is your hub for where you play. It's where you find people to play pro tours with and that kind of thing, right? Is there, if 100-person LANs are very difficult to approach, right? Just incredibly hard to host. Do you think we might see something like distributed LANs where you've got within a single state, you have to play at one of these approved gaming cafes with approved administration at them? But it's 100 people spread between like 10 gaming lounges or whatever, right? And you're still playing in a custom room and that kind of thing. Fosters local communities, super grassroots, but not all the benefits of playing on an actual, honest to goodness LAN. Would that be a direction you'd be interested in playing in, Khuna?
Obviously depending on the price pool, like, I don't know, but I just don't feel like Epic cares enough to do that stuff. Like, that's just what I think.
So did you play in the GG circuit event, which was basically that?
No.
Yeah, that was difficult because there wasn't actually centers everywhere. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Like, if the price pool isn't high enough, like, obviously players aren't gonna go. Like, what's the point?
Sure. Yeah. No, that's kind of the point, right? Prize pool gates participation at different levels, right? Which is another way to like foster growth, right? This is a 20,000 prize pool, so you can expect the top tier pros not to show up, but it's a great breeding ground for mid-tier talent, right? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got another chat submission here before we hop into the next caller. This is from...
Sorry, can I say one more thing on the last topic?
Of course, please do.
I think the biggest barrier for all of this is spectating. I think that is the biggest barrier. So we had the GG circuit event, right? That is the style that you're talking about. It's called a WAN, where you have people go to a certain center and play from there, and everybody else is going to a center as well. Nobody's playing from home. We had that, and there was literally no coverage of it at all. Right? It feels like we're in this stone age of esports where there is literally no coverage, or somebody has to cover it by tweeting, or you're just like searching up your favorite players who are there and just like looking for the scores. But nobody does that anymore, right? Nobody does that. So coverage of these events needs to be way, way better and publicized. And there is no conduit right now because the people who are doing it aren't experienced, because they're trying to do something new with Fortnite, and nobody who is not trying to do something new with esports is not really invested in Fortnite because they know how difficult it is, and they know that the tools aren't really there to do what they need to do. But I think it's possible, right? I think I've proved that it's possible to watch custom tournaments by a small team of production. I think that's very, very viable. So I think that's what people need to focus on a little bit. But it's so hard because it's very difficult to run a tournament in Fortnite. So you have to have all your focus on that. Who cares about production of a show? You need to run the tournament smoothly. So that's, I think, the biggest hurdle.
Yeah. All right, so we have kind of to move back towards balance and more in-game things here before we hop to the next caller. Gaming King Striker asks, what do we think about Epic balancing items using Rarity by making items that might be overpowered or poorly balanced, just making them rarer? And do you think that Epic using this way of balancing is bad for a game with RNG, since if someone manages to find that item, it's still overpowered? I actually had this conversation earlier with somebody I was playing with. Shoutouts to Shub. But if my biggest concern isn't how hard an item is to find, or even necessarily how much better it is than another item, right? It doesn't piss me off that scars are better than green ARs, right? What matters to me in the balancing of items is counterplay. You know, if someone finds a rocket launcher, we talked about this last week, Ball. If someone finds a rocket launcher, there are ways to play around that. You know, like, it sucks. It's still a very strong item, but there's still ways to play around it, right? Same with, like, I don't know, if they get a gold combat, that kind of thing, right? What matters to me is transparency. I need to know that they have a strong item before it's, you know, ruining my day. And I need to know that there are ways to counterplay and still come out ahead of that situation based off skill, if not pure loot numbers. What do you think, Bala? Obviously, there's a history of having an item, people complain that it's OP, and then just dropping the rarity a bit until they finally get rid of the item or actually change it. What's concerning to you about that?
It's okay for items as long as it's not a drastic change where not everybody can usually get it. It's okay. I think I don't like it at all. I don't think it's a good solution, right? I'm thinking the drum gun change way back when, where they just literally dropped the spawn rate and everybody still had really powerful drum guns, except it wasn't everybody. It was only the people who either killed somebody who had a drum gun or found a drum gun. But I see a lot of elements of this. This is completely kind of off topic, but I see them doing the same thing for vehicles and stuff like that. And I absolutely hate that. Like, mobility, it sucks when that's the case. Like, if they did it for a Rift to Go, for example, which was really powerful, and they did adjust the spawn rates a little bit. But if they made that spawn not that much or put it in a drop or whatever, I don't know. It kind of sucks. I like the drop thing with the RPG. I like that, because that makes it so that somebody has to fight for it and they have to take a risk for it, right? Yeah. But I don't like just randomly finding a thing in a chest that gives you a way better chance of winning the game. That seems cheap and not the right solution.
I think it for sure is, but I know why they do it, because they don't want to, like, I don't know why they don't want to separate the loot pool in the first place, but I know why they have that. It's because, like, one little Timmy 2004 heavy sniper finds like a gold RPG or something. Like,
wait, are we talking about Bizzle or just the fictitious Timmy?
The little kid Timmy. Like, when he finds like a scar or something.
Wait, so are we talking about Bizzle or no? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go on.
You know what I mean? Like, they get hyped and they get happy that they got like a gun and now they can go slay out and, you know, get kills, I guess.
That's the thing. That's pretty interesting,
That's
right?
That's why
like,
they have that.
I wonder if gun rarity on otherwise the same item, right? Like, not comparing rocket launcher to an AR, but an AR to a scar, right? I wonder if it feels like a scar is great. You get a scar, you're feeling fantastic in a competitive setting, right? But it's not like that much better than it's a lot better than a blue AR, right? But it's not gonna like that drastically change your chances of winning the game, right? You might like end up getting picks you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, but I don't think it's like gonna be the deciding factor whether or not you win.
It just looks so good when it comes out of a chest, you know, like, it excites someone. Like, exactly. It even excites me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think the point I'm trying to make is that in a competitive setting where everyone's, you know, playing their hardest, the difference in rarity there and the difference in the stats on those weapons doesn't make that big of a difference for other competitive players. But in a casual setting, does that rarity mean a lot more, right? Suddenly a blue AR against a gold scar, the difference there is a lot more important if both players are just going to sit there and shoot each other and not build, right? So suddenly, like, the DPS difference matters a lot more in that setting than maybe it does in a competitive setting. And if that's that's the dream to me if that's the case, right? Or otherwise,
Yeah.
I feel like it should be the case, right? Sweet, let rarities matter in like suboptimal situations so that casuals still get that joy of finding their cool item and feeling like it's going to let them slay out because it is. Whereas the item functions such a way that in a competitive format, it's really not that big a difference. You shouldn't be letting yourself get shot by, you know, an AR either way, right? I don't know. What do you think, Ball?
I feel like
Oh, sorry.
it's
Go
not
ahead.
even that big of a difference now. Like, if you have a green pump versus a blue one, like, you don't get 200 pumps all the time. Like, I feel like it's not even a big difference now. Like, even if you have a gold heavy sniper or a purple heavy sniper, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what you're talking about, Tim, before is that, yes, I don't think it matters. What I was going to say about this whole loot situation, we've talked about it before, the feeling, that sort of thing, like the data that goes behind it. What I would like to see is in a competitive sense, obviously we want to see competitive loot pool and stuff like that. But in terms of rarity, like, I don't know. I don't find the concept of having a better weapon interesting at all to watch. I find it interesting from a playing perspective, but when it's RNG, I don't really find that interesting. Actually, like, sure, I like Khuna, I like finding a gold pump out of my chest or whatever, but it's not that interesting, right? That RNG looting is pretty lame. I would like to see some experimentation in more map-based objectives, like drops, or like, I feel like BRs might actually be the place where gun game gets like is a real competitive. Like, this is completely out of left field and not something that I want to see in competitive Fortnite, right? I would like to see it tried in maybe some other game or something like that, but where you kill somebody and get a weapon upgrade or something like that, right? Your pump goes up in rarity. Like that would be cool, right? Because then people can track and be like, oh wow, like, now he got this many kills on this rotation, and now he's set up the way that he always does. Now he has the exact same loadout that he always does. Is he going to win the game? Yes or no? Like, there's those kind of stories that kind of might start propping up with that. I think it would be interesting. I don't want to see it in competitive Fortnite. I still want that RNG element. I think that's very important in this game, to be honest. And a lot of people might be like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like, Ball wants RNG? No, like, but yeah, I think the solutions to the issues that we're talking about in terms of making rarity interesting, or that was the problem I brought up. It kind of was a tangent, but whatever, is map-based objectives, like make a POI like a hotspot, but it only spawns during first circle, and you all have to like do something very, very risky like Stormfight in order to actually get it, right? Something like that, where you get a bunch of mobility from that. That would be interesting.
It's tough too in discussing these sorts of potential changes, especially to format, because everyone's got a different picture of what they want competitive Fortnite to be, right? Like, from my point of view, I want there to be more interesting mid-game interactions, but not at the cost of packed and fun, to me, end games, right? So if you create a situation where the way to have a good loadout for end game is to slay out, and now suddenly we don't have super competitive end games because of that, like, for me, that'd be a loss, even though it might be yours or Khuna's win, right? Which is just part of kind of like trusting in Epic's vision, you know, whatever that's worth. All right, let's see. We've got a caller here. Let's bring him in. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's going on, man? So gamer tag is zbluryy. I'm calling from Florida. 22 years old. Yeah, man. East Coast.
20 years old, East Coast, single. I mean, you may as well like give the full Tinder profile at this point.
Hey, man. I'm pretty much single, but I just got
pretty much single.
So,
yikes. Oh.
Yeah, I'm just chilling right now, grinding, man. Right now, to be honest.
All right. You didn't come here to talk about your relationship.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about tonight?
So pretty much, I've had this idea in my head for a while now. It's gonna sound out of the box. This is why it's kind of weird, but my idea was, you know how the block every other week they change the POI, right? The reason why I want to bring this up was, what if every week there was a possibility that Epic can change a POI, and because I think that would be more competitive, because like changing a new POI every week would add something new to like look forward to. Oh wait, there's not a new Tilted Towers anymore. It's something else.
Oh hell no!
Now, you see what I'm saying? Now instead of playing for $1 million, like, oh, I'm already comfortable learning these spots. like every week. I think this is why TT go to the block every week, because there's
Are
new
you-
POI and every person has to learn it every single week.
Are
know?
you the reason we got zombies? Are you the reason
I
we
don't
got
know.
sword?
No. It was in my head because like it's just something I was really looking for, because like I was trying to learn a landing spot, and I'm thinking like
I wish there was something
there's a reason
new.
why is there people going here every single week? Like why is like Happy Hamlet really packed during the World Cup? Why isn't Tilted packed during the World Cup? You know, but in pubs it is. It's just like, you know, it's just because probably pros land there. Oh, because they're already used to the landing spot, and then they showed in YouTube videos, and then you know, it just goes on and on and on. And what if every week it's a new landing spot, or like the block every single week, but somewhere else in the map? You know,
Kuno,
like that would be crazy.
obviously,
How
Kuno, you got
crazy
thoughts
that
on
be?
this. Kuno, what's your opinion as a competitive player?
Go in.
No. I don't support that idea. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
Why? Kuno?
Why would I? Let's say, okay, so let's say I've been practicing Westworld for 3 months, yeah, and then Epic brings out this new crazy idea that they can just fuck a POI every single week. Like,
Right.
that makes no sense. Like, and then now I have to just go and practice that like,
Well,
over and over again. Like,
yeah. Sorry.
I don't know.
finish.
It's weird.
Well, here's
No,
my
yeah.
thought. Here's my thought on that. Right.
Like,
So.
it's not consistent enough for comp.
Well, right. Exactly. That's the point of it. That's exactly the point. So you've already seen every week, there's a new update, a new shotgun, a new POI. Epic loves to be changed on the spot, especially days before tournaments, and that can be an adapt. Why can't you adapt to a new POI?
Well, but the
It's
problem
just
is
something
that
on the fly, right?
the competitive scene
Like-
doesn't
like-
want to have to be adapting in that way.
Well,
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let's back it up.
Motherfucker, we've been adapting for 8 months.
well, no, I'm just giving like a thought. Like,
Let's back it up. Let's back it up.
That's
Like
my
imagine the competitive scene started with literally a new map every
Okay.
single week, right? Imagine if things were changing like that fast. The map itself, right?
All right.
I don't necessarily think that there would be as big of a competitive scene as there would be right now, but I think there still would be a scene, and I think that scene would be okay with what is happening. I think they would just
That's true.
agree with it because that's what it is. So I
That's
don't
what they got
see,
interested in.
I don't think that idea doesn't work, right, in a game, but I don't think it works now. I think we are way too freaking used. We have way too many Kunas in the scene that don't want the map to change, like that don't want that at all. He said it. He's not gonna lie. He doesn't want that, and therefore it would never work.
There's a difference between the map generally changing and the map changing every week, right? Like,
Well, not the
you
map.
can make
It was
whatever
more
change.
Like a POI.
Yeah, totally. And you can make whatever change you want to make. Hell, you know, if there's time, right? Like,
That's like-
there's an event in 3 weeks and we're making a
hold on.
change now.
To be honest, zbluryy, we already do this. Like when we get towards the end of the season,
kinda- yeah,
literally
we're kinda
POIs
just-
change all the time. They like literally have basements that just all of a sudden appear. There's a bunch of trash that spawns.
All the 14 days of
robot
summer
and
chests are
pressure
gone.
plant, like literally right now. Yeah, the chests suddenly appear. Dusty gets filled with lava.
What are you
It
talking
actually
about? We already
happens
have
right
this.
now.
Yeah.
We kind of already have this.
Cool. All right. Thanks so much. Oh, sorry, Ball.
All right, man.
No. That was end. I'm done with that.
Thanks so much, zbluryy, 20-year-old from Florida. He's kind of single. Have a great night.
All right.
Oh, I'm struggling. Did it.
There you
I
go.
did it.
Motherfucker, crazy.
All right. Thank you again, zbluryy. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's bring in our next caller here. It looks like we got he's the only one.
J-Cow.
He's the only one. Fortnite competitive subreddit moderator. Yeah, J-Cow with the 2 7s. Are you gonna tell us what the 2 7s are for?
So when I was little, I thought, okay, so I knew the number 7 was lucky, so I just thought 2 7s would be like double lucky, you know?
I didn't expect an actual answer, but that like makes sense.
Can't argue with that. What you want to talk about, man?
Okay, so recently, Innocence tweeted out that he believed that the prize pool for tournaments should be limited to the top 25. Besides Innocence, I know this is a somewhat popular sentiment among pro players, that more of the prize pool should be going to top players. like I kind of understand where they're coming from, because if they get more money, then like it would allow more of like the top players to be able to play competitively and be earning like a livable wage. But on the other hand, it might like hurt the grassroots scene. So I'm just wondering, what would like the optimal prize pool for weekly tournaments look like? There's a lot of like interesting factors that like go into this. Like, what would a livable wage like comprise of, and like should it also be like supplemented with like streaming, etc., etc.?
Well, first off, before we like get into that, I think the distribution of the prize pool is a little more interesting to me than what constitutes a livable wage, right? That's a national, if not global scale conversation that's currently happening, right? So, but as far as like prize pool distribution of what we currently have, Khuna, what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like it definitely shouldn't be top 25, because I feel like that pushes so many other players away, like that know that they're not gonna play top 25, like, but they still play like the weekends just to get like $120, $200. So I feel like it should be like 150 for duos, like not duos. I mean, yeah, duos, top 150, maybe top 200. I don't feel like it should be top 3,000 or what it is now. I don't really know. That's
Okay.
So two things, right? We don't have to talk about like what constitutes a livable wage or whatever, but I think if you lower the amount of people who are getting paid, it certainly is lowering the amount of people who can try to play and live off of this game. Right? No matter what kind of money you're getting, I think you are incentivizing somebody to stay playing the game and try to do it as either a part-time thing or a full-time thing. The better you are, the more likely it is to be something that you can really live off of. So I think that might not really be true. I think there probably is an optimal range, but I think the biggest thing that when I see people are arguing about this topic, I think that people miss is that if there is no prize incentive for the people who are not placing well in a battle royale, then those people will start either not playing, which will ruin the games for everybody else, which happens in tournaments and EU customs and NA West customs and any sort of customs tournament right now, because they only reward top 3. So the people who are in not even top 50 by game 4, like in their 6 games, they're fucking done. They're out of here. There's no point of them playing. So that's a thing, and it also increases the possibility of griefing, right? Because they're no longer playing for something. They're just playing because they have no chance. They're just like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna screw this guy's game, and that increases the randomness of everything. So I think you kind of have to do, you kind of have to do what Epic has done, which is reward a huge amount of players, which sucks.
This harkens still back to like format and like general tournament format, not like game to game format, right? Like if your World Cup qualification series takes place over 10 weeks and those 10 weeks culminate in a final score to qualify, right? Or if your Discord tournaments or whatever are run the same way, then people griefing an individual game because they feel like they're nowhere near the money becomes much less of a problem because they have more chances, right? And then you can get away with a tighter price distribution because people feel like they have more of a chance. They're not going to get screwed by RNG in 3 out of 10 games or whatever, right?
Which is why Winter Royale worked so freaking well, honestly, because the only reason to play those qualifiers was to try to qualify, right? And anything after that was trying to qualify again. In the finals, it was just the top 50, or no, it was the top 20. So like that format works really well. Qualification as an incentive is the best thing. Prizing as an incentive is kind of not as good, right? Because even, Khuna, if he's only in range to get 100, he might decide, hey, screw this, I'm just going to play for practice, or screw this, I might just not even play, right? That sort of thing, right? Because what's $100 to Khuna? Khuna's balling,
It'd be interesting to look at the logistics of it, and this kind of touches on chatter GQs or GQs topic here as well. Something interesting is, they could alleviate some of this. You could kind of get best of both worlds a little bit if you take what is currently $1 million weekend tournaments and create very wide prize distribution, multiple times a week tournaments out of that same $1 million, right? If top 100 are all getting $200 or something like that, right? 3 times a week, that creates so much. I'm not saying that needs to happen for any sport, right? But if they use their money in that type of a manner rather than the way they have been, that can create, and then use the weekends solely for qualifying, that can create a very vibrant community almost overnight, right?
I was so surprised that there was any money at all for the World Cup qualifiers. I was shocked because I was like, hold up, World Cup. Okay, that means there's going to be people who qualify from every region or every country or whatever it is. And then they're going to play their land game and whatever. So I thought the money was going to be used for actually running the tournaments. But no, it was like, nah, man, we're just going to spend $10 million on the qualifiers. So I was very surprised by that, to be honest.
Yeah. That makes sense. Cool. Did we answer your question, Jake? Any more thoughts on that?
No. That was a pretty good explanation.
Cool. Thanks so much, man. I hope you have a fantastic evening.
All right. See ya.
Peace out.
Bye.
Jeez, brother.
Okay. I've got another chat submission here. Make sure, guys, that if you have joined the Discord, Clink, and have submitted a topic, that you join the waiting room voice channel so you can be sound checked before coming on the show. Bring your submissions. Even if we don't get to them this week, we want to get to you next week. All right, here we go. Let's see. We've got... Here's a question from chat. It is... Nope, not that one.
That one's trash. Whoever submitted that, you should feel bad.
We got a question about Arena, right? What can be fixed about Arena in the long term? How do you feel about the point system? If that interests you, I would heavily suggest you go and listen to last week's. We talked about it a lot. Find it on YouTube. Ultimately, though, we know that there's a serious overhaul coming post World Cup, and so there's just not a lot of value in continuing talking about it that much, right? One thing I want to talk about, guys, is, and this is a question from Young Snowy, is, so we're really close to World Cup, right? We're dead close. This time next week, everyone's going to be in New York, if not earlier. And what I'm interested in is, we've done some of this, but not a ton. Let's get a little bit of prediction talk going on here, right? Let's talk duos. Top 5 World Cup duos. Basically, everyone has Saf and Zayt at number 1 on their prediction list. Khuna, you agree?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Okay, I know that's your thoughts, Bala, but slots 4 through, or 2 through 5, right? What are we looking at there? Who's high on your list, Bala?
Let me pull up the finalists. See who's actually
Link me.
really stupid.
Link me.
Shinken and Stompy. I'm literally linking in the topic screening channel. Shinken and Stompy are up there. Mongrel and Mitro up there.
Yep.
And my dark horse and somebody who, in my opinion, could really shake things up is SSK7 and Jamside from VP. And then who else? A little difficult. Maybe Nahil and Funk.
Ooh.
They're
I
consistent.
was gonna say, yeah.
Interesting. I mean, Nate Hill and Funk both are kind of sleeper, right? A lot of people
Sleep on
pass
them,
them
yeah.
over. Yeah, exactly. But you both
They
are talking
have
big about
everything,
them.
yeah.
They didn't do so hot at Katowice, but they crashed a lot. But that wasn't necessarily an excuse for everybody. They did crash a lot. So I don't know. That kind of sucked. But one thing I'm missing from that entire list is Benji and Mr. Savage. They're going to do well, I think. I think they're one of the duos that can do very, very, very well.
I feel like Hunter and Kinstar are gonna do amazing as well.
True.
Yeah. I think that's
I
fair.
feel like they're kind of looked down on as well. A little bit.
The French scene, including Kinstar and everybody, Airwire Sneak Off, everybody did so well at Katowice. They literally were popping up. Even like the Gamers Origin guys, who not many people know about. I think it was Jules and Mies at Katowice, but this time it's gonna be Deidre and Mies. They're very good too. Like they don't even get a drop spot, and they're still like placed super high. So the French scene is low key underlooked for sure. That's a good pick, honestly.
Yeah. So
I feel like. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna move on to solos. So if you got more.
Nah, it's whatever. Just go ahead.
So of those duos,
It wasn't really like, it was just like not that important. It was like the people that like some players that like people overlook, like Stumpy and Shinken. Obviously, they're fucking insane, but I feel like their playstyle might cuck them a little bit.
Interesting. Like what?
Some players like that.
I feel the same way about Dubs and Mega.
Yeah.
What specifically about their playstyle for either one, for either duo?
Their playstyles are very like open qualifier like style thing, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen them do super well in any customs besides a few games, like any custom tournaments, I should say, where they have popped off like crazy in the open style formats. Mega and Dubs are kind of an exception because they're doing really well in the Prackboard scrims right now. But Stompy and Shinken, where they started was literally Atlantis scrims tournaments. That's where everybody started learning their name. The EU scene, specifically the pros, knew them before that because they were obviously playing with them. But that's where I learned who the hell they were because they just popped off in a Snipes tournament, right? Think about that. And then I haven't really seen them in much else besides open format where there's a bunch of people who aren't 100 of the best players in the world. So yes, I think that's very valid, but I still think that Stompy and Shinken have displayed such crazy prowess in terms of skill and strategy that I think that might not be the case, at least in these last couple of months. But everything changed in these last 4 weeks, to be honest. Everything changed. Drop spots, everything.
And what's interesting about it too is like as an outsider, right? Somebody not playing in prac lobbies, we're kind of blind to a lot of that, right? Like we'll be coming into the World Cup seeing players with like 4 weeks of like intense practice and boot camping. Who knows how different their drops, their play style, their strategies. Like I'm pretty blind. All I have to go off are qualifiers and no clue how World Cup itself is gonna play out, at least at the individual level. So a duo that you guys slept on, I expect pretty decent outcome from Zexro and Vinny. I expect them to go out on a bang, right? Because they've announced they won't be duoing together post World Cup. And I don't know what their practice together looks like right now. But in the past, I've always pegged them as good picks to perform.
Now they can't even practice together because one is on West, one is on East. If they announce that they're not playing together, that means that there's an issue that they don't like about it. It might be the fact that they can't practice, but in general, that type of announcement means that they're not going to perform. So I don't know. I think that's hopeful. I think that's wishful thinking that there's gonna be a really good story with Zexor and Vinny. But man, we could talk about this forever. And like Cease and Elevate, for example, we didn't talk about about Nyrox and Aqua.
Well, let's move from the duos and let's focus on solos, but for the duos you guys have mentioned, who do you expect that is qualified both in duos and solos that you have high on your duos list to perform well? For example, Zayt at the top, right? Saf didn't qualify for solos, but do you expect Zayt to perform in solos as well as duos?
Nope. I think Zayt is very dependent on Saf. I think Zayt is very, very dependent on Saf. I'm not saying that Zayt is not good. I just think that his play style, his attitude, everything. I think Saf and Zayt keep themselves up, right? I actually think Saf is a better solo player than Zayt because Saf didn't qualify for once. No. It's just I think that Saf is like mechanically better or just like better faster than Zayt, and I think that is more important in solos. And Zayt is more of a mastermind like kind of thing. I don't know. Zayt like qualify twice in solos too? Like he actually was kind of nuts in the solo qualifiers, which was surprising to me. But I still like I'm speaking of past experience. I don't think that is something. From the players that we talked about who will do good, Kinstar. Kinstar is freaking like has his improvement over the last couple of months. He was like not that good back in Winter Royale, but and then what happened? He saw Katowice. He was like okay. He was like pretty good. He was being like top. He was placing basically every game. He wasn't placing super high, and then open qualifiers, he has just gotten better and better and better and better. It's actually disgusting some of the stuff that he's doing in endgames these days. And he's not choking. He is clutch right now. I've seen so many clips of Kinstar just clutching in endgame. It's insane. Yeah.
So then, obviously we're expecting good things from Kinstar. What
I
about?
feel like we're gonna see a low key little pop off from Aqua as well.
Ooh. Really? That's interesting.
A little underlooked, yeah.
I haven't really watched Aqua at all.
He's
What
really
about
good,
him?
yeah.
What about him makes him stand out to you?
He's really good
Him and
mechanically, and
Nyrox, right? Yeah.
yeah. He just has a brain. Really.
All right, that's fair. That's
He
fair.
was one of the players that qualified out of Paradise and just like displayed crazy mechanical and patience, I think, over everything. Like I feel like it was very, very similar to Yatkos, for example. But Aqua is just disgustingly fast and very, very, very good at making decisions. I don't remember my VOD review of him, but he was gross. He was like nuts. And he is playing very well in all the custom tournaments right now. Literally every single one. He's playing very well.
All right, let's move from this. Let's get our last caller in for the evening. Got our last caller here. Hey man, what's your name? Where are you calling from? You're currently muted, by the way.
Name's Jolted, calling from America.
From America?
Okay.
What's up? What's up? How are you doing tonight?
Question
And sorry, yeah. What did you want to talk about?
Okay. So without Bloom, I think the game would be more skill based and aim would be more prominent if you wanted to be a top player. And a player with good aim and with no mats could be able to win against a player with full mats. The only bad thing about it is that it would drive away the casuals. And since a player with good aim and an AR would destroy the lobby, the skill gap would be higher. So semifinal spectating someone with good aim would be watching a pub stomp, no real entertainment. So would sacrificing the casuals and the viewing experience be a good trade out for a Bloom-less Fortnite?
I really like this discussion, and I love that you're thinking deeply about things. That's great. That's like a big step on the way to like being a smart person in all the aspects of your life. I don't know. I love that, dude. I love it. I love it. So something interesting here is that it's not just fix the game, fix Bloom, and you might drive casuals away. There's more to how Bloom interacts with the game than simply stopping people from hitting the AR shots they want to hit, right? Like building in general becomes less effective the better accuracy you have on weapons and stuff, right? Like I don't know. I think there's more levels to this than just it's a good idea, but it pushes out casuals. What do you think, Paula?
Yeah, I 100% think that the main premise of the whole statement was very true. I think all of us are going to agree with that, right? It'll make it a more skill-based game. We talked about it at the beginning, where you literally that we were arguing about the Kovaaks thing, right? Yep. So very good in terms of making aim rewarding and making things rewarding. I think the more interesting aspect of that question was about like pushing casuals away, because I disagree with that sentiment. I don't think it does. I think a rewarding shooting system is actually something that attracts people, right? On both ends, right? You can have a system that is Bloom based that is very attractive to a lot of people because it feels really good to them when they shoot. But on the flip side, there's tons of people who are super attracted into real good gunplay and things that reward you learning it, right? And that's basically all of the competitive scene. And a lot of casuals too, right? You'd be surprised how many people just play Counter-Strike because they love how the guns feel and all that. So I don't think that completely
they have to be
makes
mutually
sense.
exclusive. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Khuna? I see you making faces down here.
Nah, I don't agree with anything you guys said. Not gonna lie.
Whoa!
Imagine you're playing solo duo, and you're rotating, and you're cucked off of your shield, and you're 100 HP, and one guy breaks your wall with a gold scar, and the other guy has another gold scar or a blue AR even. You're dead. Like you like. You're just dead. Like I don't know. Like you die. You die in no time. Like there's no reaction time. Like you don't have time to react.
That's
I don't know how would that.
I think if we took out Bloom, we would need to balance the guns way more.
They have to do a whole revamp of guns. Like it can't be like it is now.
Well, which would have to happen, right? If you revamped aim, I think that goes without. Well, it doesn't go without saying, but you 100% would need to not have a gold scar in the game, right? You can't, because that would just suck.
Yeah. And the flip side, what you said though, Bala, right, about how what people want is a rewarding shooting system, right? And I think that Fortnite, like, I wouldn't play it if it didn't have building, right? But I think that goes further than just Bloom. But I think Bloom's a big part of it. But like I feel, for me personally, I feel like the current system does feel rewarding within the current paradigm of loot and meta and how building works. I honestly think it's fine. If not, like, good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's fine too. I like how it is now. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like there's certain guns that you can just tap with, like the AK. Like, sure, the AK might not be the best AR, but you can still like tap fire if you like that kind of aim, like aiming system.
Infantry rifle.
Yeah. It's really viable.
Silence
That gun.
pistol.
Like the infantry is really viable. Like,
What's that? Yeah, no, definitely. And you see people run the infantry like pretty often these days, especially if they can drop a blue or better, right? I mean, there's a big jump between blue and purple with that gun. And it's something we've been seeing them experiment with multiple guns now, right? Revolver, jump from blue to purple is a different model and different stats in different ways. Same with attack now, so on and so forth. We had it with the pump. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that changes to Bloom it's too late now, right? Back when we were doing shooting tests, well, would have been the time to continue to make further changes. But with how the game's evolved and how the weapon balance has changed and mixed up, right? Like, I think it's totally fine. Did Bala freeze on us?
I'm still here, but my stream PC just blue screen, so I'm still here, and I hope my cam didn't freeze in like the most awkward position ever.
it did. It did.
It's gone now. It's gone now. You're gone now.
Well, I'm still here.
Let me hide you real quick.
Fucking dead.
That's great. That's golden. All right. So, all right. Yeah, I think that's that. Thank you so much, Jolted, for your question, and we hope to have you back on here with another wise take again. Okay, we're about out of time here. Thanks everybody for your submissions, and thank you, Khuna, so much for being on the show. I hope you had a great time. I know we had a blast having you on here. Great, I'm glad to hear that. Why don't you tell people? Yeah, of course. What am I gonna say?
What's up?
Why don't you tell everybody what you're gonna be getting up to in the future and where you're gonna be up to it?
I'm just gonna keep streaming and keep running competitive and bringing out new box fighting ideas for you guys, and that's that.
Where can people find this stuff? Where are the plugs?
They're probably gonna be around Reddit and on YouTube and on my stream. Like,
hey, what's your YouTube and your stream?
that's that. Yeah.
Khuna, you're terrible at plugging. We got to teach everybody.
What's up with these pros?
I mean, I think we have to really have anything else to play. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No. What is your Twitch? Like, tell us what your Twitch, your YouTube is.
Under me.
Go.
It's under
what do you
me.
type? No, it's twitch.tv/Khuna.
This is also a podcast.
It's very difficult, and it's also going to Spotify and a bunch of different places. And what the hell is your YouTube? Because I'm pretty sure it's not Khuna with 2 A's.
It's just Khuna.
Just Khuna.
It's all under me.
You're done. Beautiful.
I'm done. That's that.
Did you just say that we're gonna get some educational content about box fighting?
Probably, yeah. I'm probably gonna release one of those.
Go! That's pretty hype. That's pretty hype.
hype.
By the way, my cam is back, Tim. So bring me back, please.
Hey! Look at that beautiful mug.
Go.
Just in time. All right. Well, thanks so much, Khuna, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening, week, and whatever else, everything.
You too, man. Thank you.
Peace out. All right, Bala.
He's such an awesome guy, dude. That demeanor, he's so cool, man. He's just like with his hat on back. We're just like chilling. I'm gone again, but I'm still here. No, I'm still here. Yeah, love Khuna. Thanks for coming on the show. That was awesome. And Tim, good show again, dude. Good show again. I love it.
We're out here killing it. You know what I mean? We're out here bringing some of the best content that's ever existed, arguably. So. Whatever.
So hit that follow button. You know what I'm saying?
I've said this a million times. I'll say it again. Support the things you enjoy. That's important, especially when there are so many ways for you to do it for free. All right. That said, Bala, what are you? Obviously, you're super busy with the World Cup and stuff, right? Like, what do you got? What do you got going on?
Yeah, I'm going to New York on Monday. I'm going to see a bunch of awesome people because there's so many people that are going to be there that I want to meet. Bob in chat right now. Bob, we're drinking some beer. Yes, absolutely. And just generally preparing and getting ready for next week because it's going to be a great time. My family's coming up to New York It's going to be awesome. But with that said, that also means that I won't be here next week, unfortunately. But you can go ahead and follow all my stuff. Of
what are we
course,
gonna do without
it's
you?
TW everywhere. You're gonna survive. You're gonna be okay. It's gonna be a great episode next year. Next year, I can't speak.
Next year, yikes! We got a long way to wait.
Don't steal my plugs, man. Don't steal my plugs. Twitter.com/BallaTW, YouTube.com/BallaTW, Twitch BallaTW, Instagram BallaTW. There you go. That's how you plug. Boom.
Golden. All right. We'll check you not next week, Balla. I mean, we'll be listening to you next week, but not here. And we'll see you the week after that. Peace out, brother.
Bye.
All right, guys. That's been episode 10 of Hotline FN. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Big shout out to everybody who called in. That means a lot. Calling in is what really makes the show work. So get ready for next week. Grab your mic. Start thinking about your topics. Start thinking about what's interesting to you and what you've got opinions around. For next week. Next week, we're going to have a special guest host as well as a special guest. And it will be a lot of fun. We'll be here, same time, same place. It'll be an absolute blast. Of course, you can always find this show and all previous episodes where we talk about a ton of things with a lot of different people now at this point. Find that on my YouTube. We also are available on Spotify and wherever you find your podcasts, just search up Hotline FN. Hotline FN. Sorry, I got that mountain time zone accent where I just dropped T's. Thank you for watching Hotline FN, and we'll see you next week.